The environment was meticulously designed for controlled discourse, a temple of establishment media where talking points are traded like currency. Yet beneath the surface, a different kind of electricity was building, the kind that precedes a storm. This was not merely a segment, it was an arena. In one corner, the undisputed heavyweight champion of legal academia, a man who had helped shape the very language of modern constitutional debate. In the other, a rising contender whose power derived not from titles, but from trenches. Alan Dershowitz didn't just arrive, he presided. His posture, the careful cadence of his speech, the slight tilt of his head when listening, all were honed over 50 years of commanding attention. He represented the Ivory Tower Imperium, a system where authority is vertically derived from pedigree, publication, and proximity to power. His argument was a fortress built of marble precedent and historical abstraction, designed to be intellectually impregnable. To him, Crockett likely represented a fleeting phenomenon, passionate, perhaps, but ultimately unserious in the face of centuries of jurisprudential tradition. Jasmine Crockett entered not as a supplicant to this imperium, but as an emissary from the Frontline Republic. Her constituency was not Harvard Law Review subscribers, but single mothers facing eviction, students navigating underfunded schools, and communities navigating the visceral consequences of abstract laws. Her preparation was forensic, but her ammunition was human. She understood that in the court of public opinion, a single, resonant truth could shatter a mountain of footnotes. Dershowitz's pivot from principles over feelings was his critical, fatal miscalculation. In attempting to elevate the debate to the theoretical, he inadvertently revealed the chasm between his worldview and the lived reality of millions. He spoke of the Constitution as a historical artifact to be studied. Crockett spoke of it as a living shield to be wielded. When he dismissively characterized urgent democratic anxieties as political theater, he wasn't just disagreeing with a point, he was invalidating the genuine, documented suffering of those for whom political theater has very real, crushing consequences. This is where the dynamic transcended politics and entered the realm of archetype. The image of an older, white, male legal titan employing a patronizing tone to lecture a younger, black, female representative on the real meaning of the law was a tableau rich with historical echoes. It was the gatekeeper versus the intruder. Every condescending smile, every interruption, every Latin phrase tossed out like a barrier, reinforced a power dynamic that viewers across the country instinctively recognized and, increasingly, resented. Crockett's genius was in refusing to fight on his mapped terrain. She didn't get bogged down in a duel over stare decisis. Instead, she executed a flawless strategic pivot. She put Dershowitz himself on trial. By meticulously subpoenaing his own past statements, his fervent 1990s advocacy for judicial intervention to protect voting rights, she did not merely accuse him of inconsistency. She prosecuted him for professional elasticity. The charge wasn't just that he was wrong, but that his principles were transactional. The detonation of the phrase, constitutional positions for hire, was so devastating because it was both a perfect soundbite and an unassailable thesis. It translated a complex critique of legal mercenarism into a 9-word slogan. It framed his life's work not as a pilgrimage of principle, but as a portfolio of arguments available to the highest bidder. The audience's gasp was for the breach of decorum, but the millions of shares that followed were for the breathtaking clarity of the accusation. In the aftermath, the battleground fragmented into 1,000 fronts across the digital landscape. On Twitter/X, it became a text-based referendum on institutional credibility. On TikTok, it was remixed into a generational anthem, a soundtrack for challenging out-of-touch authority. In law schools, it sparked fierce debates about ethics, advocacy, and the soul of the profession. In conservative media, the attempt to paint Crockett as disrespectful only amplified the clip, reinforcing her image as a fearless disruptor. For Dershowitz, the viral storm represented a profound legacy crisis. A career defined by winning arguments was suddenly defined by losing one, catastrophically and publicly. The Dershowitz defense no longer seemed invincible, it appeared negotiable. For Crockett, it was a paradigm-shifting validation. It proved that a new metric of authority, rooted in authenticity, lived experience, and the courage to name hypocrisy, could not only compete with but could decisively topple the old metric of detached academic prestige. The Clash radar breakdown of this moment reveals it as a cultural inflection point. It signified the crumbling of a monopoly. The exclusive right to interpret complex issues, once held by a credentialed few on television platforms, has been irrevocably democratized. The audience is no longer a passive receptacle, it is an active jury, delivering its verdict in real time through shares, likes, and duets. This clash demonstrated that in today's discourse, relatability is as potent as erudition. A story about a 4-hour voting line in Houston can resonate more deeply than a perfect recitation of Marbury versus Madison. It announced that moral authority, earned through proximate struggle, now holds its own currency against institutional authority, earned through distant study. Ultimately, the Crockett-Dershowitz showdown was a masterclass in the new rules of engagement. It proved that the most powerful tool in a debate is not necessarily the most complex argument, but the most unanswerable truth, especially when that truth is aimed at the gap between what a powerful figure says and what they have done. It was a declaration that the gates are open, and a new generation, armed with smartphones, moral clarity, and a refusal to be patronized, is marching through them. The echo of that single phrase, "positions for hire," is more than a memorable quote, it is the sound of a paradigm shifting.